Right, and we go again. We therefore spoke about the Viet Cong. We said the Viet Cong are the rebels from, and they are mainly against Ho Chi Minh and his supporters. That's one thing that this quote said. Somewhere here. Oh, fortunately, we still have it. I thought I erased it. We spoke of the Viet Cong and said the Viet Cong is the rebel force from the south that opposes Ho Chi Minh and his supporters. And who are the supporters in this context?
US.
It's the United States of America. And then it says the Viet Cong started a guerrilla war against South Vietnam. Then we spoke about the reasons for the USA's involvement in Vietnam, and we said it's because of the policy of, and then also that which they refer to as demon theory, or domino, not demon theory, the domino theory. And when it comes to domino theory, what is the domino theory? If one country falls to communism, the rest will also fall. And in this instance, we therefore moved and we say the USA before 1965, USA was not directly involved. Yes, thank you for reading the textbook. Quiet. Enda, they said, okay, let us go back a second. You do remember we spoke about Greece and Taylor, right? And we said America was involved today because they do not want the spread of. It's the same thing.
So are we supposed to also mention it in the context of the...
No, it is never asked in that context. But if the question allows you to, in the sources, because that part only applies in the sources. It's not in your essay. The domino theory that we speak of in the essay is the one that is also tied to the essay's involvement in Vietnam and only in Vietnam. Our Great Take and whatever, those are part of sources when they are talking about the Cold War in its entirety. But once we talk of the extension and this case study specifically, which is Vietnam, do not draw content from Abu Great Take. Then we continue to say USA sent weapons and advisors, and this is before the year 1965. Why? Because before then, America was not directly involved, as in it had no troops that were fighting specifically there. There are essays that you are going to find, or there are notes that you are going to get from people that will tell you about 16,000 Green Berets. When you speak of Green Berets, do not think Uti, it is people that are going to there to fight specifically for USA. They are going to go there as advisors and assistants to the Army of South Vietnam. I'm saying this because there are people that are going to come to me and say, sir, there's also something about Green Berets. That's fine. If you know how to use them in context, Green Berets, it's not a troop from America that is going to fight in Vietnam. The Green Berets are there to assist the people of South Vietnam, which is the ARVN, to fight against the Viet Cong. Which means they are training them, they are teaching them, they are advising them, they are doing a whole lot of things as part of what USA was sending, which is weapons and Viet Cong were supported by China, Russia, and the Viet Minh via what we refer to as the Ho Chi Minh Train. And then it says the USA started implementing what we refer to as the Safe Village Policy with one intention. What was the main objective of the Safe Village Policy?
To
Identify? And what other reason was it mainly came about with as an idea? It is part of that bigger strategy. It is to win hearts and minds of the people of South Vietnam. The main objective of the Safe Village Policy is for USA to present itself as the bigger brother, as the savior, just like they always show themselves to be in movies. And wherein we did say that wherever there is going to be catastrophe, it is going to be specifically in America. And who's going to save the day? America. Because America has Superman, right? And they are the Supermans of the world, which means they can save everyone. That's what America was also trying to do here. And when it comes to movies, I need you to understand one thing. Movies, newspapers, and whatever things you read, they can be used as tools for what we refer to as propaganda. And you guys know what propaganda is, right? And if I want to portray myself as a savior, In that movie, I'm going to be starring, and I'm going to be fit, and I'm going to beat everyone up. And when you start seeing me in real life, you are also going to be very much afraid.
I feel yeah. I did not see
The USA implemented what we refer to as the Safe Village policy with one objective to win the hearts and minds of people from South Vietnam. And the other one is that one that you guys have already said, which is to try and identify the Viet Cong. And we therefore say this strategy it failed because the Viet Cong operated inside the villages. Right? So when you write your essay, they are saying strategies of the USA failing against the Viet Cong or a small army of peasants like the Viet Cong, whatever the case may be. This is how you write it. This will be your point, right? And then this one will be wide fails, which means when you do this, it's wherein you are sustaining a line of argument. Because your argument is USA strategies failed against that of the Viet Cong. Am I making sense? And then it continues to say the Viet Cong used successful guerrilla tactics. For example, they had booby traps, they had underground tunnels, and they also used surprise hits, and they were mainly relied on hit and run tactics. And that's all encapsulated in what we refer to as their approach, which is known as a guerrilla tactics or guerrilla strategies or guerrilla approach. That's up to you to decide. And then Yebo.
So if we are then it's wrong to write ETC.
It's very wrong.
Why?
Because it's wrong. You can't say ETC without having this context. When you are saying ETC, it's when you are saying etc., right?
No, there's information, but
No, listen, I'm telling you, that's what you are saying. You are saying there's extra information that you are not writing here. We need you to write it. It's more like when you say never mind to me. Of course I'll mind, because why are you saying never mind all of a sudden? I do mind. So when you write ETC, it is not correct because we need you to give us everything. Rather not write ETC at all and give us the points that you have as far as you can think. Don't add ETC because when you say ETC, I need to know what the ETC is. Questions? Right. The Viet Cong were farmers by day, and the freedom fighters or guerrilla fighters by night. And then it continues to say USA believed that the war could be won easily by sending troops to Vietnam. Who's going to do this? Who mainly believes that the war is very easy to win? It will be Lyndon B. Johnson specifically. It's America, yes, but there's someone who specifically holds that belief in America, and that person is Lyndon B. Johnson. So in the instance, it's where it starts telling you that now they are going to talk about Lyndon B. Johnson. Anyone before this, it's not Lyndon. Instead, it is Kennedy, it is Eisenhower, and it goes back as far as Truman. This is one. Then fast forward to where Lyndon now will start coming up with this idea that we refer to as the Gulf of Tonkin. And they are therefore going to say, as part of the Gulf of Tonkin, what happens in the Gulf of Tonkin? They were surveying, yes, and what happened? Apparently their ships were shot at by the North Vietnamese. And in this instance, Lyndon B. Johnson is therefore going to go to the Congress and ask for the deployment of US troops to Vietnam, which he'll be granted permission to do. And then he starts sending troops, and that's where in now the very war that we speak of as the Vietnam War actually starts. Then we start talking about this particular approach, which is known as Operation Rolling. What is the main objective of Operation Rolling Thunder? We are saying Operation Rolling Thunder had the objective of destroying the Ho Chi Minh Train, and it also failed. You guys know why it failed, right? Why does it fail? Because of thick vegetation, because they had a tunnel system instead of just mainly existing above ground. They were also reliant on using a tunnel system that had them being safe from the explosions that are going to therefore come about as part of Operation Rolling Thunder, which means the Ho Chi Minh Train will not be entirely destroyed. And then it moves on to say, when Operation Rolling Thunder fails, America is therefore going to shift from that which we refer to as Operation Rolling Thunder, and they are now going to start using chemical warfare. Here it says USA's use of chemical weapons wherein we talk about Agent Orange and Agent Blue. It turned the Vietnamese population against the USA. Let us talk about this one in context. We said we break this one into two. They are using chemical weapons to destroy the vegetation that the Viet Cong are using to hide themselves, right? And then we are also said that when they use chemical weapons, it's because they say they want to see to it that they expose and therefore get rid of the Viet Cong in those jungles. And we therefore backtracked again. We said this one is going to do two things. Because we said it's chemicals. Can chemicals identify race? Can chemicals choose the victim? Instead, anyone who comes in contact with this particular chemical, they are going to be affected, right? And we therefore said again, the troops that America had in those jungles are also going to be affected by the very same chemicals. Such that one, American soldiers themselves are going to be affected by the chemicals that are going to be disposed by America. And one other thing, when they say this one turned the Vietnamese population against the USA, it goes back to that facet of us saying America wants to win the hearts and minds of the people from South Vietnam. By doing this, they said they are also trying to see to it that they protect the people in the safe villages. They are trying to protect the South Vietnamese from the Viet Cong. But when they use the chemicals, those chemicals even affected the people that America claimed to protect, which are the people of South Vietnam. So when those villagers are affected by the chemicals, they are going to blame the person responsible for those chemicals, and that person will be USA. Which means, in attempt to win the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese, America is failing yet again. Because the safe villages fail, and when they are also doing deforestation and in the manner in which they are, it is also going to fail. See as one. And then we move. It says by 1965 there were over 500,000 troops in Vietnam. And these troops are coming all because of one person in particular. And that is Lyndon B. Johnson. Because he believes that this war can be easily won. That's why he's coming up with these attempts. And which, when it comes to the troops themselves, you also said something about this. What did you say about the troops on Saturday? We said they were young and inexperienced. Such that when they have the numbers, will the numbers be of any use if they are young and inexperienced? All right. Alright, from the 500,000 troops, it's wherein we are talking about the young and the inexperienced. Right? Who are going to be fighting against people who are willing to do anything to win. And when we speak of people who are doing anything and who are willing to do anything to win, we are talking about the people of Vietnam. Which means the Viet Cong, since they are fighting for the people of Vietnam, they are willing to do anything in order for them to win. Because the main objective that the Vietnamese mainly have, North and South combined, which means Viet Minh and Viet Cong combined, they have one objective in particular. They want to unite as a country. They want to be united as one in Vietnam. And when it comes to that objective, it is one thing that is going to be achieved eventually. But we are still moving. It says, the US deployed ground troops that conducted search and destroy missions, which is where they shifted from strategy number 3. Yes, number 3. There was Safe Village, it failed. There was Operation Rolling Thunder, it failed. There was Operation Ranchain, which is chemical warfare, it also failed. When they realized that the vegetation is destroyed, yes, but they can't still find, they still can't find the Viet Cong, they are going to say, let us deploy what we refer to as foot soldiers or ground troops, which are the troops that are going to be exposed to the very same chemicals. I did say that. And in this instance, when they are exposed to those chemicals as well, they are going to be affected. When the army of America is affected, it means some of them are going to die because of America that they are fighting for. Now I want you to imagine a scenario. Your parents allow you to go and fight a war, and then the news comes back that you are dead. Are they going to be happy? Because number one, you are dead. And one thing that they are going to start asking is, Questions? How did you die? And what were you doing when you were fighting later? Which means the reason for deployment. Now that's where in America is going to find itself having to answer a whole lot of questions from people in America. But we'll come to that. It says they were easy targets for Viet Cong who used the cover of the jungle to their advantage. This is one point that we spoke about when we were dealing with the history of Vietnam. We said the Viet Cong, or the people that are originally from Vietnam, they know the territory a lot better than the foreigners, or the people that are actually not familiar with the territory. In this context, we are talking about in USA. As much as they have the numbers don't matter because they are not familiar with the territory. They have general lack of that territory. They do not know the ins and outs of that place, such that only citizens that are originally from Vietnam know the territory, right? And then we moved from there on and we spoke about the very fact that the Viet Cong responded with what we now call the Tet Offensive. This is where we start dealing with content for Van Dijk. The Tet Offensive is an offensive that is now going to come from the people of Vietnam, which means the Viet Cong. The Viet Cong are going to be assisted by the Viet Minh. Am I confusing you? When it comes to the Viet Cong, they are therefore going to come up with a strategy to say, now we are offending. Which means they'll digress or they'll shift a bit. They'll deviate a bit from their usual way of fighting and attacking, which is through the hit and run, the hit and dive, setting traps and doing things when nobody dares expect them. They are now going to embark on a direct offense, which will be known as the Tet Offensive. It is a slight deviation, not that it is complete deviation from their manner of fighting, which is guerrilla tactics or guerrilla strategy. Because here, when it comes to the Tet Offensive itself, it is a surprise attack. It's a holiday. When you speak of the Tet Offensive, it's wherein there was a day or it's a holiday in Vietnam that is known as the Tet Holiday. It's more like a celebration of the New Year, right? When everybody in Vietnam expects that they'll be celebrating the Tet Day of a New Year and everything else, it means even the Americans themselves, they are not expecting to be fighting any battle on that day. Are we together? So when it comes to the Tet Offensive, it is going to be an offense that comes from the Viet Cong, supported by the Viet Minh. Are we together? And who are they directly attacking at this point? They are attacking the United States of America. There are 2 points to mainly note here. We said in the north there is a capital city that is known as Hanoi. Do you remember that, right? And then we said in the south there's a capital city that is known as Saigon. When it comes to Saigon, it's wherein the base of America mainly is. And when it comes to the Ho Chi Minh Train, it goes as far as Saigon. So on that particular day, it's wherein they are going to transport weapons from the north into the south using coffins. I mean coffins. A coffin, like a coffin for someone who's... They are pretending like there is mass funerals because they are going to carry a whole lot of coffins. And when they are carrying these coffins, I need you to understand, instead of a body, they are having guns. In those coffins, they come loaded with guns. When they are carrying them through the streets of Saigon, Americans suspect nothing because number one, it's a holiday. In their minds, they are programmed to think that it's a Tet Day, nobody is going to have any attack. Because again, America is the one that is used to attacking. And in this instance, that one is in the open. When we speak of Saigon, there's no vegetation, there's nothing. It's a city, it's a capital city. Which means they do not expect the Viet Cong or the Viet Minh to come and attack them in broad daylight. So the Viet Cong are going to pretend as though they are having these funerals. And they are carrying these boxes. And in these boxes, I repeat, they were carrying weapons. Fast forward to the point in time where they are now going to start shooting at the capital city. And understand one thing, when we speak of the 10th offensive, it is not only going to happen in Saigon. Instead, it is going to happen, it is going to be 100 different attacks at the same time. Which means if this is South Vietnam, if this is South Vietnam, there's going to be an attack here, there's going to be an attack here, an attack here, an attack here, an attack here, another one there, another one there, another one there, because when it comes to the Ho Chi Minh Trail, it covers a whole lot of ground. Am I making sense? Is there anything that needs to be repeated so far? Saigon, it's basically the entirety of South Vietnam. Can we move? Now, when you speak of the 10th offensive, it is going to be 100 different attacks happening at the same time.